welcome you all to Trek Wars. So today's video, we'll be taking a look at the V1 Starglider, and the Night Flyer is our first ship. So the V1 class is considered a light starglider. It's a cruiser for its time period. It was created in 2240. Its shields are 0.5. Its hold off is 4.25. Its refreshment rate is 0.85, and its breakdown is 1. So this is one of the newest new generation warships that the Romulan created, and its shielding is very low. Its stats all around are not very high when it comes to shielding. Alright, so the ship was expected to be in combat, and it's armed that way. So its phaser power is 0.85, it has 6 disruptors, and it has 1 plasma torpedo. Now, I'll note that the refresh rate is below standards, but it does have quite a bit of offensive capabilities, especially for a ship of its size. Alright, so the construction of this ship is only 40. Remember, we're looking at Rift class generations. This ship is really old. There was actually 140 of these starships built, but only 40 of them are surviving. So that's where that number is coming from. The ECM is actually pretty good at 0.80. Its hull strength is 51,000. That's not too bad for a ship. Length is only 60 meters. Its crew is unusually high for a ship so small at 135, and its cargo is actually really decent for a ship of its size at 120. So it was intended to be a deep space explorer. It was intended to be a deep space hunter. Due to its limited size, though, crews did not like to be on this thing. Its sensor logs are its long range sensors are 0.85. Its short range is 0.85. These are both good. There's nothing wrong with this, and it has no shuttlecrafts. Its cost is 51,396. So it's a relatively cheap starship to construct. All right. So now, on the other hand, this ship accelerates in its warp speed capabilities. So its impulse power is only 0.75, so this is a very slow moving starship. Its warp power is 0.75. That's not too bad, but when you think about the ship, how small it is, that's actually not that bad. Now, its optimal speed is an astonishing warp 7. So this thing is several degrees faster than most Federation starships of the time period, and its max is 8. So its max speed is not as impressive as its optimal warp speed, which means that this ship is very fast at getting from point A to point B. Now, overall, when I look at this ship, I am going to say that this is a relatively positive design. It's got a decent amount of firepower. Its hull strength and shielding are not really that great, but for a ship of its size, it's acceptable. Its cost is cheap, and it's really fast. So this would make a really good interceptor. As far as it's actually being a light cruiser, it doesn't fill that role, but as a destroyer, I would definitely give it marks for being a relatively good starship. So next on our list is going to be the T2 Death Talon. So the Death Talon has a shield index of 0.5, a hold off of 4.25, a refreshment rate of 0.85, and a breakdown of 1. Its phaser power is 0.68. It has 4 disruptors and 1 plasma torpedo and 0 photon torpedo launchers. So unlike the V1, this ship is actually designed as a destroyer, and so it has pretty much the same similar stats, the same components, except for it's a little bit lighter on the weaponry. Constructed 80 ECM is 0.70, the hull strength is 31,500, the length is 120, the crew is 110, and its cargo capacity is 100. This ship is lightly armed and has a reasonable crew for its size. So the ship's sensors are 0.7, its short-range sensors are 0.75, it has 0 shuttlecrafts, and its cost is 31,945. The ship is very cheap and its stats are all relatively low. So impulse power is 0.85, its warp power is 0.71, its optimal warp speed is 6, its max is 7. All these stats are relatively mundane and pretty average. The impulse power is below what I'd be expecting. So overall breakdown of the T2, the thing is designed as a patrol ship. There are a lot of these ships. They are not built to take on ships one-on-one. They are, like I said, they're built for patrol, and they're also built to fight in groups of wolf packs. Now, as a ship that's going to fight in a wolf pack, I think its stats are acceptable. This ship is not a cruiser. It's considered a destroyer slash patrol ship. So because of what its role is, I think the ship is relatively good. If it was considered a cruiser, I would not be saying this is good. Next on our list is the V4 Wing of Vengeance. Shield index is 0.85, hold off is 3.46, refreshment rate is 3.75, its breakdown is 1.10. As you can see, the hold off shield has been improved and the refreshment rate is much better than any of the ships on this list. Though its refreshment rate is not at the levels you'd be expecting for ships of this time period. All right, so our construction is 135. ECM is 0.85. The hull value is 65,600. Its length is 85 meters. Its crew is 160. Its cargo is 80. A huge amount of these ships were constructed. Their hull strength is relatively low, in my opinion, compared to ships of its time period. It's a small ship. Its crew is relatively large for a ship of its size, and its cargo is pretty decent for a ship of its size. And its ECM is just average. Now the ship's impulse power is 1.30, its warp power is 0.65, its optimal speed is warp 6, its max is warp 7. It's very fast and very maneuverable with its impulse speeds. Its warp speeds are just average. Now we'll take a look at the phaser power is 1, its disruptors are 6, its plasma is 1, and 0 torpedoes. Overall, its firepower is real good. It's got what we would be expecting from a ship of this time period when it comes to its refreshment rate, and the amount of weapons it has are relatively good. Now its sensors are 1 for short range, long range is 1, its short range is 1.22, and it carries 2 shuttlecrafts. Its cost is 66,104. So looking at this ship overall, big picture, its stats are pretty mediocre, except for when it comes to its maneuverability. The ship is very maneuverable and it has a decent amount of firepower. This ship, in my opinion, is not a very good ship, but due to the Romulans' lack of technology in this time period, this is actually a really good starship for the Romulans. Now, the shield index of 3.46, the refreshment rate of 3.75 is really pretty low for what we're expecting a cruise this time period. Usually they're between 5 and 9. Now, the reason why this is only at what it is, this ship is really good at outmaneuvering Klingon D7s and D6s and doing significant damage to them because they couldn't get that forward-facing weaponry to get to these ships because they were so maneuverable. So the Klingon Empire actually thought highly of this starship, but the Federation did not, because the Federation pretty much got 360-degree firing arcs. So that weaker refreshment rate was a huge problem for the Federation, or a huge problem for the Romulans against Federation. But this ship was very effective against Klingons. Really interesting ship. This is the original I-4. So all the other I-4s are based off this variant, and it originally started off as a transport ship. Okay, so in 2250, this freighter was constructed by the Romulans with their new design hulls, and it's referred to as the Grafler class. So the shield index is 0.75, 3.46 for the hold off, and the refreshment rate is 1.35, and the breakdown is 1.22. So it has a really poor shield system, but this ship is state of the art by the Romulan Star Empire when it did first start out. All right, so the construction, there are 80 of these starships. Their ECM is 1.00, which is good for a freighter, and its hull strength is 212,900, which is really good for a Romulan ship. Its length is 240 meters, so this is a very large ship, and its crew is only 40, and its cargo capacity is absolutely enormous at 800. Now, its impulse power is 0.50. The ship is very slow, very, very slow. Its warp speed or warp power index is 0.8, relatively low for a modern ship, but for Romulan standards, this is pretty decent. The warp optimal speed is warp 4, and its max is warp 6. So this ship is very slow. Now, the ship's phaser power index is 0.55, and it has 4 disruptors. Now, it's noted in the lore that there are 4 light disruptors. It has no plasma torpedoes, and it has absolutely no photon torpedoes at all. And most variants of this starship don't even have the 4 light disruptors. Long range sensors are 0.85. This is pretty standard for Romulans. It's not too bad. Short range 0.70. A little bit below what we would be expecting, but the ship's not really a warship, so it doesn't really matter. Now, unlike most Romulan ships, it has 4 shuttlecrafts. Now, the cost of this ship is $214,095. So this cargo ship is very expensive by Romulan standards. So, an overall of this ship, it can carry a lot of cargo. When it's carrying its cargo pod, it's relatively slow. I will note that the ship has the same speeds as the other I-4 classes without the additional tug part. So that module, when it's not on, the ship's much faster. This ship design is not very efficient, when it comes to its shielding. Its hull strength is pretty good. Overall, it's a tug, and it does the job rather well. There's nothing great about this ship. There's nothing terrible about this ship. It's just a large tug, and it does the job. It can also be used for troop transport. All around, it's a pretty decent ship. On our list is the Romulan Bird of Prey, also known as the I-4. Now, there are going to be 2 different variants of this. There is the smaller prototype, and then there's the larger cruiser. And we'll be taking a look at both of them. Just know that the stats on the top will be reflecting the experimental bird of prey, which is the first bird of prey that we see attacking Captain Kirk in the Constitution-class starship Enterprise. And the larger variant is the cruiser type that are seen on a lot of Star Trek games. All right, so the I-4 Bird of Prey was created in 2257. It's the first starship to ever use a cloaking device. Its shield index is 0.85. Its hold-off power is 3.46. Its refreshment rate is 1.35, which is very low. Its breakdown rate is 1.22. Now, later on, in 2267, there'd be a new variant, the B variant. Its shield index is 1. Its hold-off is 3.46. It gets a refreshment rate of 4.75 and a breakdown of 1. So obviously the very first variant has relatively weak shielding, and the second variant actually has pretty decent shielding, pretty average for the time period. All right, so the original variant impulse power is 1.30, its warp power is 0.8, its optimal speed is 6.5, its max is 9. Now, the cruiser variant, it's a little bit slower with impulse power at 1.15. Its warp power is 0.8. Its optimal is 6.5, and max is 9. So overall, this ship is pretty maneuverable for a ship of its size. The smaller variant is very fast, very maneuverable, and even the larger variant, for a cruiser of its size, it's higher, or has higher levels of mobility than most cruisers. All right, so the prototype constructed is only 21. The ECM is 1. The hull strength is 33,499. The length is 68 meters. The crew is 75. The cargo is 70. All those stats are decent for a ship of its size. Nothing too great, nothing too bad. A little bit lower than what I'd be expecting with the hull strength. Now for the cruiser variant, the construction is 73. That's very large. The ECM is 1. That's average. The hull strength is 66,998. That's really not that impressive for a ship of this time period, to be honest. Its length is 136, so it's not really that small of a ship. Its crew is 150. That's a all right amount of crew. It's not too large, not too bad. A little bit higher than what I would be expecting, but cargo is 140. That's surprisingly well for a ship of its size. It's not really that bad, especially for alien ships. But as far as a deep space engagement, the 140 is pretty decent. Now the sensor or short range sensors are 0.9 and the long range are 0.9. These are relatively good sensors all the way around. Now the small variant, I would refer it to as the... Alright, so both variants have the exact same short range sensors of 0.90, which is pretty good, and then the short range is 0.90 is also pretty good. Both these starships lack shuttlecrafts. The smaller variant is 33,775. That's the prototype. It's a relatively cheap starship to create, and the larger variant is 67,542. That too is a good cost ship for the size and what you get. I will admit I don't have any factoring for the actual cloaking devices that these ships are using. These are the first ships to use cloaking devices, so that does significantly increase the cost, but I don't have a variable for that currently. Alright, so I wanted to save the weaponry for last because the prototype has a phaser power 0.75. It has 4 disruptors and 1 plasma torpedo. Now, this ship is the first ship to use a plasma torpedo that is such a high caliber that it's capable of destroying enemy ships in one shot if their shields are down. None of the other variants had a plasma torpedo that was anywhere close to the power level that you see on this ship. So the phaser power on the cruiser variant is 1, which is good, it's acceptable level. Its weaponry is 4, is below what I'd be expecting on a cruiser. But once again, that plasma weapon is just extremely powerful and deadly. The entire design of this starship is built around the plasma weapon. Alright, so this is kind of a difficult one, so I'm going to go ahead and evaluate the ship's stats all the way together, both variants. We'll start off with the prototype, the one that we see during the actual fighting Kirk. That ship almost destroyed a cruiser. I'm going to give it an absolute gold star. Having a ship that small, that cheap, with that much crew, and at that cost and being that effective is phenomenal. Now, the larger variant does exactly the same thing, except for it's basically twice as expensive. And you're not really getting a whole lot because, I mean, the whole value is about double and the ship size is basically double everything. I don't think it's worth the extra funding and extra money and extra crew to fund the exact same starship. I don't see any use for the larger cruiser variant. I think the larger cruiser variant is a failure and it's garbage. I mean, there's no reason for it, in my opinion. Now, I will state that they don't use shuttlecrafts on a lot of the Romulan ships because, especially with ships that have cloaking devices, because they don't want the cloaking device technology to get into other races' hands. And so they will self-destruct themselves, and then the lack of shuttlecrafts is a cultural thing for the Romulans because they want to guarantee no one's going to scuttle the ship and try to save themselves. So all Romulan ships that have cloaking devices have a nuclear countermeasure for if the ship is disabled to destroy itself. I want to talk about the two different variants. This image is coming from Venom Geek Media. This is some of their artistry team. I'm just letting you guys know about it. If I use any of their stuff, they said that they would really prefer that I let people know. So I want you guys to take a look at the artistry and kind of, this is a really good example of what I was talking about. So the Romulan bird of prey cruiser, it's a pretty big ship, compared to the Constellation class. And you look at the original, which is when I say original, I mean it's the prototype variant. It's basically like a small gunboat or maybe a small destroyer. That ship's, weapon, the plasma torpedo, was so powerful that it would have killed the Enterprise if it was up close. So I give it absolute gold stars to have a ship that small, even though it's a weapon that has a lot of limitations. The fact is, it's very dangerous in a close fight, especially if you have several of these ships fighting you at once. You're in big trouble. Now, the bigger variant, on the other hand, its hull strength is what? About twice that of the smaller variant. It can't really take a punch. Its shielding is not very impressive. It's got the same weapons as the smaller destroyer variant, but it's coming at a much higher cost in materials and in personnel when the smaller ship can do the exact same job. Thank you for watching Trek Wars. If you like this material, please subscribe and make a comment. And with that being said, victory is life.